Right, top 20 players of this Premier League season. I have a list of apologies for players that haven't made it onto the list, but we'll get into that a little bit later on. In 20th spot, for myself, Mr. Erling Haaland.
Ooh.
I did not see myself putting him in 20th position. I did have to get him in there. Is he even on your top 20?
I can't lie, he's not.
Not even on there?
He's not even on there.
So I had this discussion, because I was putting forward my list, and then I was asking a few people, thinking, what do you reckon about this? I was like, I can't deny him, because he scored 20-odd goals in the Premier League. He's kind of suffering from his own standards.
And I think that's what it is for me, is I'm kind of measuring of his own excellence. And the past 2 seasons, you set a ridiculous standard. The first year you came in, you broke infinite records, and it was like, who is this guy? He's going to break Shearer's record within 3 years. Last season, of course, took a little dip, and that's fine. That kind of standard to maintain it is ridiculous. But I just feel like performances in particular this season, just for me, haven't been up to scratch. And especially in a year where I look at the old guard of Man City, the likes of Gundogan, the likes of KDB, the likes of Kyle Walker, they've all shown they're on their last legs. They're on their way out. And I really expected more from the likes of Foden, the likes of Haaland, to really carry this next era.
That's a great point. The fact that Foden's not in yours, obviously. He's not going to be in mine.
Not.
And I like where your head's at with this. And I think it's a good debate to have first up. I kind of wanted to just chuck him in at 20th because, like I say, he has
can't ignore the numbers.
But there's 2 ways of spinning it. You can go, the last 3 seasons, I mean, actually, still not crazy. Obviously, look, Dortmund, 33 goals. Sorry, goals and assists. Let's do that. No, let's do goals, actually. 27 goals, 22 goals. But for Man City, 36, 27. He's on 21. So there is a drop-off, but he's still got 20 goals. So I thought I kind of would chuck him in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth a mention, but I think we know now what Haaland is capable of. And I don't think we've even seen 70% of what he is. And I worry for the league.
Do you think,
you
think he can get better?
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
I think his all-round game has so much to improve on.
I think there's a big challenge coming his way by not having Kevin De Bruyne knocking about.
Oh, fully.
That cheat code is gone.
I think you saw that when Kevin De Bruyne was out injured for an extended period of time, though. He was still getting goals, but it was definitely goals he had to work for and kind of more scrappy goals where Kevin De Bruyne is the ultimate creator, isn't he? He just puts it on the plate for you.
And I think it's going to be interesting. Like, obviously, we're in the wake of the Southampton draw. And the thing with that game, I could still hear the woodwind of like, I never saw the Southampton thing. I love that song somehow. It just still felt it felt slow.
Yeah.
With Man City. And they need to find a way to inject pace into this team. And that's what I'm intrigued to see with Pep in terms of like what he's always thinking, and he'll be sort of making moves this summer, you would imagine.
It's funny you mention pace and that Man City team, because I've picked number 20.
Okay, go for it.
Savio. Who I think this season, despite maybe not putting up incredible numbers, he has been exactly that. He's provided pace. He's provided a breath of fresh air.
He's young as well. People forget that.
He started off rough as well with kind of the dry spell when people were kind of looking at the number thinking, oh, this isn't the one that was at Girona. But I think about the November, December mark onwards, he was one of their best players. And every time they needed a kind of creative spark and outlet, he was always the one making it happen. And I've been very, very impressed with him. And he's one similarly like Haaland. I think there's so much room for growth. If he puts down some numbers, I think people start looking at him very differently.
I think you're right. I think those numbers are coming. And in fact, like I say, it's funny, is once you get put in, I think a good example of this is that League Cup final, Liverpool against Chelsea, and everyone's going, like these tiny babies of Liverpool, and actually looked at that Chelsea team, but because they were sort of, it all felt so much more high profile with them, they weren't afforded that same sympathy.
No.
Savio is like, I think he's 21 at most. But because he's had a season and come into Man City, you're just expecting him to be 100%. Like electric.
That's what happens nowadays when you pay these big fees, isn't it?
Yeah, good shout. Okay. Will there be any more Man City players? We will find out. 19th spot. Alex Iwobi. I've gone for a 19th spot.
I had him a little bit higher.
Did you really?
Okay. Go for it. I'm curious to hear your reasoning.
I think I was sort of, and as I say, there is a moment where I need to apologise to a whole host of names. And Fulham, I think for all of them, I've got a nice little spread of different teams, because it has been that kind of season where there's been like 10, 12. Even like, I just saw Crystal Palace there, and our beloved Finn who has got his cup final ticket, which is amazing. I was looking at them, and in terms of knowing them as being, where are they? You go, most Premier League fans, you go, where are Palace now? At any point, they'll go 12th.
Perennials.
And I looked at the points of 12 as well. Like underneath them, 42 points, so like miles ahead, and then above them, I guess not a crazy amount, but it looks a bit more because it's a 5. 51 points. They are just there on this little island of 12.
I would say Fulham, Brentford, Palace, the 3 London clubs there, they're always just kind of like perennially floating mid-table.
Yeah.
They're never really in trouble of going down, and they flirt with the Conference League spots throughout the season, but end of the season, they always kind of restore to default settings.
Yeah. I just think Iwobi's really matured as a player. I think that left-hand side is the great side of that team.
Mm-hmm.
And I think actually we've spent times in this podcast talking about Anthony Robinson, who's on my apologies list. Apologies, Anthony. You're not in there for me. And Bassi as well, also on the apologies list because he's had a great season. But I think Iwobi does knit it together. Like he's had that sort of ability to sort of play in different areas on the pitch for Fulham. And Fulham are a really, really good team. 9 goals, 6 assists. And I think he's just one that, because he's been around for so long, and he's been steady for so long, you're sort of like, well, yeah, you're good, you're fine. But I think he's been a level above that this year.
I fully agree.
I wanted to give.
No, I
Alex
fully agree.
props,
I think the word you used there was maturity, and I think that's what you've seen since he left Arsenal. He went to Everton, and it was up and down.
It was okay.
It was okay. There was moments he had. But I feel like
him.
in this Fulham team, I've always said they're misfits, that they've kind of been put together from teams that maybe they weren't wanted elsewhere, and he's just gone there and said, you know what, I can be the best player in this team. And last season, we saw Pereira kind of leading that creative charge, being that spark in midfield. And this season, some of the goals he scored as well, bangers, top bins. And I'm like, Fez, he's grabbed this team by both horns and said, this is my team now. Yeah,
a great variance with him as well of like, can dribble. I think that's the thing. People thought he was like a winger.
No.
And he can dribble, and he's so neat and press-proof. He's got great vision.
Yeah.
Really, really nice, neat vision.
Composure,
I think he's done
he plays
really
with
well.
now as well. And that comes with maturity as well. I think he's someone who's been through a lot of up and downs in his career as well. Coming through as the wonder kid, going to Everton for big money as well at the time. Everton underperforming, and you're kind of having to deal with the doldrums of the Premier League, and that kind of builds your character up. And I think once he comes to Fulham, it was kind of like perfect playing ground. And I think here he can really progress. But
it'd be good to see them. No, actually, I'm not saying that. Who have you got into 19th?
I had Gabriel Magalhaes, and some would maybe say this is too low.
I've got him higher.
With the injury, obviously, he's missed a fair chunk of the season. But I think for when he was here, he was a feared man. And feared man in particular for those set pieces. He put everybody on notice at every corner. I mean, I suffered North London derby in my home ground.
There's trauma here.
But it's not just the goals as well. But I think defensively, he has been one of the best centre backs in the league for about 3 years now, and he looks so kind of assured when he goes up for duels on the ground, in the air. He's someone who, his reputation for me has turned around a lot, and I think he deserves a lot of the credit he gets now for sure.
I think he's been I'll just talk about him now. I've got him higher up, and I'll reveal that obviously in a bit. 28 games, 3 goals, 3 assists. Some big set piece goals. And question for you, because I think one thing I was going to say, I think people will still feel that Saliba is the A side. But I think in terms of performances this year, Gabriel has been the A side.
Can I shake your hand there? Thank you very much, because that is something I've said a few times on the pod, and everyone's like, what are you talking about? And I always say, I think Saliba's got a bit of pretty privilege, I call it. Being a handsome young man, everyone's like, oh, look at the handsome young boy.
Saliba's had a shaky season. He's had some awesome moments, and he clearly is awesome.
I remember even in the Champions League, had a few shaky moments where it's just, and you're thinking, ooh, but nobody will really make any noise. But if Gabriel does the same mistake, it's like, oh, Bozo genius kicked in again. And I'm like,
he does have pretty privilege.
I'm like, it's pretty privilege, I'm telling you, man.
Do you know what I noticed the other day as well, and I've got a problem with it, is that he's number 2. I can't.
Do you know me?
I
with
don't know
numbers,
how I didn't spot
I'm very funny with numbers like that. It's like, there was I remember back in the day as well, Steve Finnan used to wear number 3 as a right back. And it used to great me. Stick to your numbers. Fabinho wearing number 2 as a midfielder. Like Barros wore 5.
Somehow I've acclimatized to 5 as a midfielder. Somehow.
I think
it's like
it's become more accepted.
Down to Zidane and Bellingham. Jack Radoni's playing for Coventry. He's number 5. I noticed that as well. But he's killing it as well, so it's fine. But yeah, people who know, people who've been on my journey of talking about football will know that I hate the number 3 because I always thought it made me look fat. Because it was like a round and I'm round.
Out number.
I don't know. It was just like it felt doughy. I was doughy.
What about the number 8 then? It's just the 3 clothes off.
Because it's more curvy. It's more curvy.
It's like snowman builds.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, 8 I didn't mind. 8 I quite like.
Yeah.
So Gabriel's had a really strong season. The question was, which loss had a bigger impact on Arsenal's season? Question for you guys as well in the comments on Spotify or on YouTube, wherever you're enjoying this, hopefully. Saliba's injury in 22-23 or Gabriel's injury this season? Which one do you think has been a bigger loss?
Ooh, because I do remember the Saliba one was the infamous one where they said kind of throw away the title, but this one they kind of crashed out before the title of Riyadh. But I do feel like Saka was out too as well.
I would say Saliba.
Yeah, I think the Saliba one probably I would lean towards.
And I think that's the thing with this list is it's about this season. Mm-hmm. So, spoiler alert, Saliba's not in my 20.
Yep, neither is he. Apologies.
But it's not about who's the best. We know Saliba's sensational. Mm-hmm. I think, Gabriel's had a great season. But I've got him a little bit higher up. So next up, 18th spot. With no goals this season, but in 18th spot, I've gone for Gravenberch.
Oh.
Is that low for you?
Very low in my opinion. But go for it. I'm curious.
There are some... Obviously, huge impact, and you've got to have to take that into account.
Yeah,
in terms of him stepping in and being absolutely sensational. I think certainly for the first half of the season, maybe a touch more than that, and overall having an amazing season. Everyone knows that I've really been impressed with him. I think he's very complete in that position, and I think we'll see that more and more in terms of that guy. Yes, he has maybe the mind. Well, can he have the mindset of a 6 and protect, but also have that energy to get around, get on the ball, turn with the ball, pick out passes and allow the whole team to maybe squeeze the opposition a little bit more.
Yeah.
And there are so many... I've got other Liverpool players in here before Liverpool fans shout at me. But I do think he waned a touch as it went on. And that's why he's only in 18th.
Okay.
And it is maybe a bit of a spicy one.
And I think the reason for me personally why I think he's waned is because he might be one of the few players that's played every single minute of every game. And he's one of the few players that doesn't get rotated in and out of that side.
Yeah, which maybe should be applauded and therefore maybe should be higher, but
I think just the difference he's made in that position, considering he hadn't played there before, and the fact that this season he was coming in pretty much out of the picture. People were talking about, we need a number 6. It's a position we've been chasing. I'm like, personally, I had him top 10.
I'm looking at all these other names now and I'm thinking, what have I done?
And I'm like, for me, I think the when you watch him play as well, he is, I've said, the closest thing that reminds me to Moussa Dembele. The way he can pick up the ball, the way he drives with it, the way he glides up the pitch, it's poetry in motion. I can't lie. And let me just preface this, by the way. I have been a Gravenberch fan since his Ajax days. Right. And I have been running prop on Twitter since about 2020. You can see tweets going back. So I've been a huge fan of him.
Were you expecting him? Did you see the position change?
I didn't see the position change one, which is why I've always given Arne Slot massive credit for that. I saw the potential of the player he could become, but I thought once he'd spent 2 years wasting away at Bayern, another year kind of rotting on Liverpool's bench.
Yeah,
there comes a time when the moment goes, and my fear was, is he going to be able to relight that fire again? But he has.
Okay, input of rule. You can make one change at the end.
I like that. I like that.
This is a dialogue.
Yeah.
I speak, you speak. We both are open.
Healthy discourse.
Changes can be made. So along the way, we're going to allow you guys to react to the website average ratings. We will not be saying the name because I don't want to. So in 20th, Virgil van Dijk.
Should be a little higher.
Yeah.
Should be much
in
higher.
In 19th, Luis Diaz. And in 18th, Eberechi Eze.
Okay.
That's fine.
These metrics are...
So we'll keep moving. 17th. Or did you do your 18th?
18th, no, I didn't.
Sorry,
I said Jacob Murphy for me. And I know you might think, looking at the assist numbers, I think he raced up to those assist numbers very quickly and just kind of stalled a little bit. But I do think his impact on and off the ball can't be overlooked. I think Gordon, Isaac, Tonali, Guimaraes, those guys all get the plaudits, but Jacob Murphy hasn't been moved off that right wing. I think everybody forgets Harvey Barnes was signed 18 months ago or a year ago, and he was meant to be, him and Gordon locking down that wing combination, but we haven't seen much of him, and he's been forced into being more of an impact player, and that's because of Jacob Murphy. The grit he plays with, I feel like just defines Newcastle as a club, in my opinion. I love him personally as a player. Maybe should have him higher, but when I was looking at some of the names, I think maybe from a PR perspective, he took a little hit. I'm being honest here. I'm being honest
privilege.
here.
This is PR privilege.
Yeah, 100%.
I think Jacob Murphy should be much higher. He is much higher on my list. I will give my passionate rant later on.
I had a feeling you would. That's why I
did you? Right. 17th spot, Dean Huijsen.
Oh.
Maybe a little low for some.
No, I had him one position above.
Okay.
So I think you've placed him rightly.
I did have a struggle here because I kind of wanted to put more. I had like a really long list, and that's what I need. Yeah, let's do some apologies. I'd like to apologise to fullbacks in general. There are no fullbacks in my list.
So actually, no, there is one.
Oh, have you got one? Okay. So my fullback apologies. I would like to apologise to Ola Aina, Daniel Munoz. Sorry, Finn. Who's probably like, this is mean when there's 20. Give me your 20. Give me your 20. It's difficult.
I can't lie. This is the thing. People all think it's very easy to put these lists together, and I did it.
I just really struggled to put fullbacks above.
You're splitting hairs.
Attacking players.
You're splitting hairs.
Yeah,
so
that's what I was struggling with.
And it's all preferences.
Yeah. Anthony Robinson, Kirkes, Livramento, Lewis Hall. A new age of maybe of fullbacks kind of coming through here. If you think of like the normal names that you have there. So yeah, quick apology to all of those. Dean Huijsen, I think, wow, he is like destined for some really special things. I think he's done brilliantly for them this season, and probably one of the signings. I mean, maybe the release clause is going to like not hurt them, but kind of dampens the idea of this being one of the greatest signings. But in Bournemouth's history, for what I believe he's going to go on to achieve,
was it 20 million?
Yeah, but that's the sad thing, is that you're only going to get
15 million profit.
Is that what it? Yeah, was it 60? What's the release? Or something like that.
60,
something like that, right?
I thought it was 30.
Where I think if they can have him like under lock and key, then you can really push that money up, because he's just been sensational.
He has, and it's like technically, aerially, I do worry a little bit in terms of, are we doing shiny toy syndrome? Where, I mean, he's only been here a year. Last year, he just broke through at Roma, and it's like pretty much only 18 months of kind of senior level football. And he's already been touted with moves to Madrid and Chelsea and these kind of pressure cooking grounds where I'm like, I hope we're not pushing him too quickly to the forefront. And then when he makes a mistake or two, we're drowning him, because I think he could be a special player.
I think to answer that, right? And that's a great point. And in our world, you're always thinking, is this going to continue, or what are your predictions for? Because that's what we, what we do, which is a great life. And I think with that in mind, first of all, the style of play that Bournemouth play, the pressure that he is on, the fact that there's all that space in behind because Kirkes is gone, the fact that he has to push on and be brave enough to be able to man mark if they're going to do that, that all bodes really well. Whereas opposed to like last week on the podcast, we were talking about Morgan Gibbs-White going to Man City.
Yeah.
Morgan Gibbs-White might be fine, but if I'm with the information I have, he's been playing in a team that doesn't really have the ball much, and then when they get it, they play quick.
Yeah.
If you go to Man City, is the absolute opposite of that. So we don't know. Dean Huijsen, I feel like you put him in an Arsenal team, Real Madrid team, where there's all that space, I don't think he's afraid. And in terms of him just being, was there the meme with him being like a chill guy?
Yeah.
I think that bodes well too for the spotlight of these guys. Yeah, I think his personality, I would presume, would suit. Yeah, the pressure.
Those kind of big pressure
would be my
cookers,
guess.
Yeah,
but
that would be my only concern is maybe just do another season at Bournemouth. Really show you can kind of cut your teeth and listen. Those moves ain't going anywhere. But the only thing is obviously there's a release clause now, so clubs might want to activate that. But for his development, I would love to just see him stay one more year, and especially if Bournemouth do sneak a Conference League place or something like that, I'd love to see him in Europe as well.
Okay, who have you got in 17th?
17th place, I have Thomas Partey at Arsenal. And I think his job's kind of gone a little bit under the radar this season. Declan Rice playing in a little bit more advanced role. I think Marino is now at number 9 despite being signed as centre mid. But I think this season has been like a return to form for Thomas Partey, honestly. Someone who maybe coming down to his last year of his contract, people are thinking, you know what, maybe it's time to kind of cut new. Maybe it's the playing for a new contract kind of form.
Yeah.
I think his passing ability from deep positions can't be underestimated in how important it is to Arsenal's build-up play. And just that little bit of grit he just brings alongside Declan Rice just gives them that security blanket. That one of the reasons why they've had the best defensive records for the past year or two. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, true. And I think they missed him massively, didn't they, in that first
leg of the semi-final.
Yeah. Okay, 16th spot. I've got Eze, 16th.
Oh.
I will always... Now, people will think I'm crowbarring him in. No.
Mm-hmm.
I do love him.
Yeah.
And I just think he's awesome. I think he's so good. And I think...
Is he not?
I think he's got nice PR from people. I don't think he gets the PR he deserves.
Okay.
The critique I will always have of him, because I've seen it myself, and I think we still see it sometimes, is his... maybe just that 3% of over niceness makes him less of a killer in front of goal, but he can still score great goals that make you just, go wow. And things like that semi-final, for him to sort of, in big games, you need people to step up. And also, when you're struggling, which Palace were for a little bit of the season, you need a guy to go to. And I think for them, to have someone like him, and at some time, will he go this summer or not? I don't know. Can he play at some of these other guys? Some people aren't sure. I'm certain. I think, like, from a technical point of view, from the ability to get out of trouble, ability to see a pass and all those things, again, will he take the chances when he needs to? Not always, but at a better team, you probably get a few more.
Yeah.
I think he's amazing.
He is one of my favourite players to watch in the Premier League, honestly. I think technically what he brings, the coolness that he just plays with, and some of the incredible goals he can score, whether it's free kicks, edge of the box, little 1-2 finishes. I've always said he is the most ready-made Tottenham player I've ever seen not play for Tottenham. And I think every time I see the great relationship he's got with Son Heung-min, both doing up Burberry campaigns. I'm like, hey, mate, Agent S, do your work and get that boy down to us this summer, because I would love nothing more than to have Eze in that team and playing for us, because what a player, honestly. And
like even for Tuchel, obviously the England games, they're easy England games. I appreciate that. But they were sort of a difficulty to a point. Certainly, it might have been the second game to unlock a team. And I think the feat that he has, I just think he's great. I think he's amazing.
I think the only thing that's maybe held him back from like getting that bigger move quicker is obviously being in a team like Palace. It's hard to be consistent all 38 games of the season because your team's going to be so up and down.
Yeah.
And I think those kind of hot and cold moments sometimes has kind of made people think, can he do it on a week in, week out basis? Because there's not as much pressure on you when you're playing at like a Palace. Yeah. But I remember previous summers he was linked with like a Man City, and they would have thought, should we go for a Savio who's playing at Girona, top four or something like that? And that's where I think he's been penalised a little bit unfairly. Yeah. But I do think there's a serious player in there.
Yeah.
And he's at that age now as well where he's primed for that big campaign as well. 27, 28, I think he is. So
I think I think he's a guy who can get you a win from nowhere, get you out of a hole. Yeah. And I actually think those players are more and more crucial than ever before, with all the discourse that there's been around football this season and the robots and all that stuff. He can figure out an answer. Those players are so important.
X factor,
yeah. And to your point, kind of like the good when you are in those kind of teams, you're gonna have good periods and bad periods. Dean Huijsen, like you're saying, if say he has that extra year, if I was a manager wanting him, I'd actually kind of want him to have, in a perfect world, have that extra year. Bournemouth don't do as well. Yeah. You have some awkward moments, which means you grow as a person. Because I know you're good enough.
Absolutely.
And then I'll still come and get
Absolutely,
you.
Yeah.
Because, I think that's the truth. Everyone thinks everyone's going to be great forever. It just doesn't happen.
So 16th, I had Huijsens, which we kind of touched on already, yeah.
Okay, we'll carry on to 15th spot. I've got Damsgaard.
Ooh.
I'm fighting the cause
You
for
know what?
Damsgaard. The guy's not being seen by the world, and I think he needs to be.
This is where I got to hold my hands up and apologise, I think, because I completely forgot about him.
In my list, I nearly forgot
him.
about Gravenberch. Full stop.
Oh,
He wasn't in there. I had to push some.
but
I had to push
Damsgaard
Kluivert.
is almost like the typical player you forget, where he's at Brentford doing his thing, and he has been a creative force for them. I mean, double figures in assists, if I'm not mistaken. And I think it's almost like reminiscent of when he first broke through, for me anyway, at Euro 2021 or 2020 as it was. But for Denmark, he was incredible in that tournament. Got to move to Sampdoria. It didn't really quite work out over there. And even when he came to Brentford, the first season hadn't initially gone the way he'd planned it to. He was a lot of the times coming off the bench, being an impact player. And in this season, he's just had that kind of breakout year where it's like, okay, there's a new Dane on the block.
I'm going to show you something, and I'll read it out for you guys, obviously, if you're just listening. But of course, we'll pop it on the edit, hopefully. Yeah. This is his FB ref, right? And so for a midfielder, this is his passing.
Wow.
So there's a lot of green here. So he's in like the top, let's say like top 25% for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 metrics for passing. I'll scroll down a little bit further. This is defense. Defense of the, like, I think there's about 10 different metrics there.
Yeah.
He's probably in the top 5%. Well, certainly top 10% in the top 5 leagues in about 8 of those metrics. Like, it's not all about that.
Yeah.
But if you watch him as well, he's often the pass before the pass.
Yeah.
Can he do this again? Will he have Sharda and Burmo and all these guys? Will it, have the... Even things like the fixtures for Brentford have been really interesting.
Yeah.
At the start of the season, everyone's like, wow, what's up with this home form? Why can't they win away? It's because they were playing all the bottom half teams at home. Second half, I think from January, their away form's a joke for kind of the similar reasons,
reversed,
right?
Yeah.
But got an incredible manager, and there's obviously some really, really talented players there, and they play with a great energy, and they got some goal scorers up there as well, of course. So it does help with that, but you got to get the ball to them. And I think he's just been brilliant.
The biggest factor that if that's going to continue or not, you said there, Thomas Frank. And listen, if Mr. Postecoglou decides to walk at the end of the season, I know and have a home for Mr. Frank.
Is that your guy?
Absolutely. I've been pulling for him for months now. Tactically flexible, man manager, great motivator, real kind of like people's person, players manager. I just love him, honestly. Even the way he talks and kind of presses, he will give the media a bit of information, but won't reveal the whole game plan. And I'm like, good. Because someone like an Amarim, I feel like is just too open and just gives away everything. But I think Thomas Frank, for me, as the way he's been able to get every last bit of juice out of these Brentford players, similar like Klopp used to do with Liverpool players, you might think this guy's a 6 out of 10 player. He's going to turn him into an 8 out of 10. So I think a lot of that form continuing next season, and even with the likes of Sade, with the likes of Mbembo to a degree, and we'll talk about him in a little bit as well. But I think Thomas Frank, you have to give him massive credit for this.
Oh, totally. I think he's got. I think before, I remember it was before Klopp was going. I remember watching this video, and they were talking about the short list or long list for the Liverpool job, and they said Thomas Frank, and you saw the whole panel of Liverpool fans. Like, it was like someone shat themselves.
Brentford guy.
It was like, ugh.
Yeah.
And I think that perception of him has massively changed.
Absolutely.
So. Who have you got in 15th?
15th place, I have Ola Aina. And I know you said you didn't have any fullbacks. I wanted to get him in because I think what he's been on that right-hand side, incredible for Nottingham Forest. He's got the whole right wing to himself. I know Elanga's there, but he kind of plays more inverted, similar with Cho as well. But he has been similar like Iwobi, to be fair, where they've kind of gone through ups and downs. Even when he was at Fulham, it wasn't great. Torino, it wasn't great. And this Forest team, I don't think anybody expected him to do what they were doing this year. And fair play to Sells, Milinkovic, and Murillo, and for the kind of iron curtain that they've put there. But he has been a outlet there on that right-hand side, and I think he's just been brilliant.
Do you know what I like about it? He's kind of like, fullbacks stop being fullbacks for a bit, and he feels more like a traditional fullback, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because he can get up
and
as
it
well.
Still works. Yeah,
but he loves the defensive dirty work.
Yeah. Do you know what also, I feel like him, Iwobi, Bassi are trailblazing a little bit in terms of us like seeing what they're like being free with their personality, like talking to people, like Snapchat stuff as well. Like it's.
By the way, that is another
smart.
reason I've kind of put him on the list.
Yeah, because
he's breathing new life into what it means to be a professional player.
Yeah.
So, as you said, so many players over the years have just become like media trained robots, and nobody has that personality anymore. And it's refreshing to see. And mind you, of course, it's happening while his team is winning, so it's kind of easier to do.
Sure.
I would love to see him doing it after they lose and stuff like that. But he actually has. Even after they've lost, he's gone on Snapchat and he's like, "Oh, that was a tough one today." And I'm like, thank you for showing us you're human, because so often you just think these players will go home and it's like, no, it don't matter.
And it's so. I hope more. I think it'll happen more and more because, again, almost from a PR point of view, it allows people to root for you. A little bit more. And I think that's he has had a sensational season as well. So I'm pleased you've popped it in there. Next up, I've got Gabriel in 14th, who we discussed. So who you got in 14th?
I actually have his running mate. No, not Ola Aina's running mate, by the way, who I just mentioned, Murillo.
Okay.
Who, honestly, I have fallen in love with this year. Like I used to play a bit of defense back in my day when my knees are good, and I've always got like an eye for the next centre backs. And he was one I was like, who is this UFC middleweight contender playing at centre back? And the partnership he's formed with Milinkovic. If I was a centre forward, that'd be a nightmare combination because you don't know where it's coming from, but you're going to get hit, and they're going to take the ball as well. And the physicality he plays with, the composure he plays with at the same time as well. On the ball, technically, I think he's very good. But he's just a breath of fresh air, honestly. A bit of old school defending, like we used to see maybe in the mid-thousands, but has that technical ability to still play in today's game as well. And
I just want to see what his age was. I think he's pretty young.
Yeah, I think he's
22.
Yeah, I was going to say 23, but yeah.
Those traps.
Mate,
crazy.
I'm trying to get in the gym like him, man. I'm telling you.
I think what's good about he was on my sort of backup list. I wasn't able to sneak him in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a good shout. And I think of that pairing, I think often you're a bit kind of like we're talking about with Saliba and Gabriel. There's a feeling that one has a higher ceiling.
Yeah.
Is maybe a bit more Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
Even you go back like, Ferdinand and Vidic, I think you might like Vidic, but you kind of Rio's
the kind of sexy one.
He's
the
sexy one,
And
I think Murillo's a sexy one here.
And Milinkovic, look, he's quality. He's a seasoned vet. He's kind of more the experienced hand there. But with Murillo, I'm just like, this guy. Whoever gets him after Forest, you have a serious player there. Kind of reminds me of the mold of Araujo at his peak at Barcelona.
Do you think he'll be, we talk about Gibbs White and that move. Do you think he'll be okay with that move?
Yeah. Do you know where I would love to see him go? AC Milan. Somewhere like that where an institution that needs those kind of bedrock foundation pieces. Right. But I don't know if Milan can afford him at this point and the way their projects
would he work for you?
I mean, to be fair, we're kind of stocked in that position. We've got Romero, Van der Ven, Danso, Dragusin's out injured as well. I mean, Archie Gray slotted there. I love Danso.
Yeah,
I love Danso. I mean, get him on the pod if you can.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is he available?
I mean,
you got his number?
Nah. His manager's number.
All right. Okay. We move on to 13th spot, and I'll then reveal a few more average ratings. I've gone for Tonali in 13th spot. I think in terms of sort of game-changing kind of moments of a season, I think that move of him as more of the 6, Bruno as the 8, I think has been great for both. I've struggled to get both of them in, and it was one where, and this is rightly or wrongly, I kind of went, I'm going to pick one of them.
Yeah.
And I speak about Bruno G a lot because I love him. And if I was a Newcastle fan and I've got to sell one, Tonali can go.
Yeah.
Tonali has been sensational. He's a
brilliant.
tank.
Since coming back, he has been like a huge factor for them. I think you even saw that in the Carabao run as well. I think the fact that he plays for Newcastle baffles me. And this is no disrespect to Newcastle because I do think when you're building a mega project, that is the type of player you need. But I'm just like, wow, you are a Rolls-Royce midfielder, jack of all trades. But it's funny that you were talking about Guimaraes because he's the one I've got there.
That
for me is the prototypical player that I would try and be out on a football pitch. It's similar like Tonali. That's the beauty with Bournemouth, Newcastle, Fulham, Brentford even. I feel like they're teams that know how to play. We'll punch you in your face football.
Yeah.
But then also, when it's time to get on the ball, we can play a little bit as well. And Tonali and Bruno are the perfect examples of that. Where
I thought that was a bit revealing in that Newcastle-Chelsea game. It felt like sort of hardened footballers versus maybe
young
a touch
kids
flimsy.
yeah, absolutely. And you characters like Bruno and Tonali, they set the tone out there, in my opinion, as midfielders. And nowadays, I feel like everybody wants to be a specialist. Whether it's the number 10 who finds the eye of the needle pass, or I'm just a 6 who breaks up the game, but these guys have said that you can't define me in a role. I could play the 6, I could play the 8, I could play the 10. Wherever you need me, I could do a job, and I love that.
Yeah. So I'm pleased to put Bruno G in there. That's good because I was that hurt. But I sort of just thought Tonali we needed to talk about him, so I've popped him in there. Let's reveal a few more on the average ratings. Fascinating stuff here. Here we go. So we got to 18th. So in 17th, Erling Haaland. 16th, James Tarkowski, who has had a good season.
Okay.
I think he doesn't get the flowers, actually, Tarkowski,
I
a lot
agree.
of the time.
I agree. I think him and Pickford.
Yeah.
I think Pickford as well, similarly, because they play in that Everton team where everyone's just like, ugly old Everton, who's 16th place or whatever. But I think those two, without them, they would have been relegated.
Yeah. It would have been a lot uglier.
Yeah.
A lot uglier. I think he's been an amazing player for them over the years. 15th spot, Heung-min Son.
I'm sorry, but as a Tottenham fan, now I'm looking at these numbers a bit funny because
mate,
it has not been a great season.
It gets more great. Right, ready? I'm gonna walk into this, right? Everyone hold your breath. Here we go. In 14th spot, Alexander Isak. 14th best player in the league this year, according to the data.
Data hype.
Yeah, we need a touch of eye test in there. Come on. Right, so I'll give you 13th as well. Ready?
1, 2, 3, 4.
13th best player in the Premier League this year. Martin Odegaard.
I am about to vomit.
Mate,
you are telling me Martin Odegaard has had a better season
He triggers the press
than Alexander Isak. Throw the stats away.
Do you know what? I've done videos actually this year going, this is why you've got to back Martin Odegaard. Look at him doing this. But it was about the pressing.
Yes. It wasn't about...
On the ball, he's lost... He's not a bad player.
No,
he's obviously a great player. But when we are looking at this season...
It's a low light.
He's lost his way this year on the ball. And if he's going to be the captain and the leader in an attacking position...
Yeah.
I need a bit more.
And I think the more frustrating part for Arsenal fans with it is that first 3 weeks, 4 weeks when he came back from injury, it was like, this is what we missed. This is what we needed. This is why we didn't look as fluid as it was.
Yeah.
And then after that month, it was like he went, okay, free trial period over.
I think he just went safe.
Yeah.
He's just like, I was chatting to Clive, Clive had this thought on this, about the fact that it's his first touch. It's like closing off a lot of options, and so like the goal in the 2-2 against Liverpool, he actually does the right thing. He gets it out of his feet and has a shot. It's parried and the ball goes in, and so they get the goal from it. And that comes from him being that bit more
aggressive,
positive, aggressive.
And I think that happens when you're low on confidence. I think anyone who's played football. There are moments when you will pull off the most audacious things just because you're feeling confident.
Yeah, you see it do it.
Yeah. And then when you're not confident, you're second guessing everything.
Yeah, you
saying, is that the right touch? And then you might take the right touch, but the shot might be wrong. And it's just, it's a mental thing. And this is where they say football's so much a mental sport.
Totally.
People overlook it, but he has definitely been like playing within himself this year.
That's a great way of putting it. Yeah. 12th spot, Caicedo for me.
Oh, okay, interesting. I had him top 10 territory.
I'm okay with that. I think he. What I want is to the Newcastle-Chelsea point, and that's why he's probably not in the top 10 for me. Is he's great? Is he making everyone else great? Like, can he sort of like I think Bruno, who is not in my 20, which is shocking, but like I think Bruno G would be like, right, you lot. Let's fix it, and he sort of does fix it. I don't feel like Caicedo has added that element to his game just yet, but he is he's outrageously good, and I think it's more about maturation, if that makes sense. So like maybe next year, if you're a Chelsea fan, you're wanting to see, look, we've got like a midfield that's like crazy exciting here. But yeah, that kind of leadership element I want to see from him, and I'm not totally seeing it just yet.
The only thing I would say is I think from that position anyway, it's hard to do that, fair. In my opinion. I think we see it from players like Bruno G because that's just their personality, I think. Whereas Moises Caicedo, for me, that isn't really his personality. I think his game almost leads by example. And I think the best way to compare that is you look next to him, Enzo, who got bought for the same price, isn't revered or looked at nowhere near as important as he is. And I think Caicedo, at times he's had to play in at right back, looked super comfortable, has played in midfield, looked super comfortable. And I think as much as he has, I'm sure, all the defensive numbers, I think one of the biggest things that gets overlooked is his passing ability as well. And I think that eye-to-needle pass, sometimes the way he's just able to break from defense to attack, and he starts it. But as you said earlier with Damsgaard, sometimes he's the pass before the pass. Yeah. So Palmer will get the assist, but he's played the line-breaking pass to get that to him. And I think
it maybe as well. So I think maybe the thing I'm throwing at him here, which is more a challenge, and maybe it's not fair. Is like
it's a fair one.
I see him as like, you could be Roy Keane. Yeah. You could be Vieira. You could be that guy. I guess the question is, can you be that player anymore in the Premier League?
It's a fair challenge as well, because you look at the Chelsea team, it's a fairly young team, and they don't have many quote-unquote leaders in there, and they're looking for that right now. When Palmer can walk in his first year and make that team his own, they're crying for leaders. Thiago Silva's walked out, and there isn't really anybody to kind of grab it. It's there for him, and I think, as you said, he's got the right minerals about him to do it. Can you step up to it?
Yeah, and I think I obviously put him there with Tonali. There's been a lot of talk about the two of them, kind of who's better, whatever. Yeah, I don't know, just that sort of like metal. Yeah, I think he's got it. I just think I'm waiting for it to elevate the team maybe a little bit more. Maybe that's not his fault, but yeah, he's in 12th spot for me. Who have you got in
12th? I had Mateus Cunha. Mateus Cunha, who
I've got him much higher.
Yeah, I think some people would have him higher, but I just feel like there have been a few moments where I'm just like, can you be trusted? Can you be that guy? Whether it's, stealing glasses, whether it's getting into fights, or social media posts. And listen, those are all off the pitch things as well, but it does kind of...
Your docking points.
Yeah, just a little bit. But I do think in terms of on the pitch, he is brilliant. Technically, what he brings, he is a real needle mover. That little bit of X factor that can create something out of nothing. And where would Wolves be without him, honestly?
Yeah. I've got him much higher. But yeah, I get it. Okay.
Also, do you know there was an interesting stat the other day that I saw, speaking of numbers? He is the player who has walked around the most in a game. And I was like, someone thinks that Lionel Messi. I was like, only Messi can get away with that.
True. Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just because the Wolves have been defending a lot.
But he's just someone who, the reason why that stuck out to me, he's someone who I always looked at, I was like, he's a hard worker. He's a grafter. He puts the yards in. And then I saw that and I was like, huh? Yeah. It just kind of threw me a little bit.
He's quite a divisive figure.
Yeah.
Like, I know, I've chatted to Neve about him a few times, and Neve's sort of like, there's something pulling at her when she's talking about him that she's struggling with.
I agree.
I think there's some of the points that you would make there as well.
And that's where my concern is a little bit with the United links and talks, because I'm like, if you go there and you try and pull this stuff, trust me, you're not going to survive very long. And a club like that, there'll be a lot of pressure, there'll be a lot of eyeballs, there'll be even more questions, there'll be way more media coverage, and can you live up to that? So it'll be interesting to see how he handles it.
Yeah. In 11th spot, I've got Morgan Rogers.
Oh, I actually don't have him on my list. I don't have him on my list. And I think he has been a great player in moments. And I think he's had some real standout moments. But
not having it.
I don't know what it is. There's just something holding it back for me where I'm just like, I feel like he's a great 10, but he's also not a great passer. But he's a great final third action player.
That's interesting. That's okay. We're allowed to disagree. I think people are sleeping on him.
Yeah, I'm not getting wrong. That's how he ended up at Villa.
I think he's had the tutelage at Man City. I think the size he's got. We did a video on him on the Premier League channel. feel free to go check it out, where we were sort of analysing him and looking at the different things he can do, especially in the way that football is now, be it kind of man-to-man, beating your man to affect the game properly, instead of it being in that sort of state of nothingness that sometimes it falls into, or in transition as well. The size he has, but the feet he has as well, and the awareness he has. There's a goal in transition. He scores against Brentford. They win the ball. They get the ball to him. He's already in this great place. And some people might just go, "Oh, well, that's part of the game now, scanning." But he scans about 6 or 7 times between picking up the ball, laying it off to Ollie Watkins, and getting it back. And it is 360. He's looking all the time. On 2 occasions, one, the time where he gets the ball initially before he drives with the ball. Actually, let me give you 3 occasions. One, when he gets the ball, as the ball's coming, he scans as he takes the touch to get a picture. Then when he plays it, then when he's driving with the ball, he doesn't just look there and there. He looks to the right back or right winger, sorry, who's on his way. And then when he plays it to Ollie Watkins, he gets it back. And again, when he touches the ball, he's not actually looking at the ball. He's looking at the goalkeeper, so that he can then curl it in the top right-hand corner.
Yes.
Like, in terms of like the levels of the technical side of the game, for someone of that size and stature, I think he's
the thing I love the most about
he could win
him.
us the World Cup.
Oh,
he could win us.
Big shout that. The thing I love most about him, and it's the same thing I was speaking about Gravenberch earlier as well. I love someone who can drive with the ball.
Yeah,
like someone. I feel like football's lost that a little bit. Now we have a lot of these cute dribblers and power runners, guys who are going to pick up the ball and just drive
my way.
Move, Yaya Toure, mush them as you go past. I love that about him, honestly, and I think we've seen that so many times this season. I still think there's room for improvement. That's all it is, in my opinion. And maybe I'm judging him too harshly because, as you said, in that England team, it's funny you say he's going to win the World. Because I look at that and I'm like, you've got Eze, you've got Foden, you've got Palmer.
I think he could come. He might not even start, but I could see him coming on and do something crazy
to what all of them are. And I just feel like that could help him kind of sneak into that team, possibly.
Into that, yeah. I totally agree. And I think like the start of the season, was anyone thinking he would have a season like this? Like,
absolutely not.
8 goals, 10 assists.
I think when Villa signed him mid-season from Middlesbrough, I don't think even the most hardcore Villa fan would have expected him to be this good.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
To sort of, because also there's coming in, having a few games, and then like Philogene has struggled with that.
Yeah.
There's coming in and taking it in the 10 role. That's different. You've got to be good.
And remember, it's one thing doing it in like, oh, I'm coming into the back end of the season, the second half of the season. Sometimes it could be maybe the last 7-8 games. There's nothing really to play for, so teams aren't really trying. But then when you start the new season, you've got Champions League football, you're getting international call-ups, and you're adapting to every level like a duck to water. Yeah, fair play.
Yeah. So I've got him in 11th. Who have you got in
11th? 11th place, I have gone Jean-Philippe. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yes, Jean-Philippe Mateta. I'll just make sure I didn't have an extra there. Jean-Philippe Mateta. I think he is, you know what? As a self-proclaimed hater last year,
I was going to say, I bet your boys have had it.
I have been turned because last year, I remember, was it him, Hwang Hee-chan? There was a few of those guys at those mid-table clubs who I was like, I'm watching you very closely and I need you. Muniz was another one. I need to see you carry it on next year. Some of them haven't lived up to expectation. Mateta, however, the guy's a joke. The guy's a joke. And I know when he went to the Olympics and stuff like that, I was thinking, mate, fair play. Like you're now getting the France call-ups and everything, but Crystal Palace, he has put them on his back. We were talking about Eze earlier. I think he has been the character behind the team, in my opinion. And sometimes I feel like as a striker, you have to be that. You have to be the big focal point and say, you know what, I'm going to drag the team. That's what Drogba used to do so great. Sometimes you guys aren't having a great game. I want to put this team on my back. And a few times this season, he's done that.
Yeah, I think it's a great shout. And I think it all came from the ripple effect of tucking in his shirt.
Yes.
Simple as that.
Tucking in the shirt.
I rate it.
Black
Looks
gloves.
good.
Yeah, do we forget that Jean-Philippe Mateta used to have hair when he first came to the Premier League? Everybody forgets this, you know that.
Forget that, yeah.
He's gone full bald, and that was when the goal scoring streak kicked in. Do you remember he couldn't hit a barn door for the first 2 years?
Yeah, he was struggling for a bit.
It was crazy. Sure. And then he said, you know what, let me tuck the shirt in, let me get the black gloves
get
on.
Tash going.
He said, hey, Thierry Henry,
Yeah.
This is your legacy.
No, I think because he's clearly got a bit of personality there. It is amazing, isn't it? They kind of, if you can just get to that point where like you can like puff your chest out and feel comfortable in the league, what it can do for you, and the setup of the team, they've got that honed now. Sarr as well, helping with all of that as well. Massive. I think Eze loves playing with Mateta as well. Someone who could drive him behind, but also like hold up the ball. Yeah, good shout. Not in my 20, I'm afraid. Probably needed 1 or 2 more goals. There's some other strikers who've scored more goals, so it didn't make it for me. But yeah, I mean, he's having a great season. 10th spot.
Ooh, we're entering top 10 category.
When you go
now.
first, who you going 10?
Do you know what? Some people will have seen me on a Saturday Social a few weeks back and will be wondering, why has your list changed a little bit? I was like, I had to reflect. You know what I mean? That's what we have to do sometimes. We've got to reflect. Yeah. 10th place, I've gone Caicedo. We've spoken him briefly earlier there, but I just think he has been immense this season. And I wonder if Chelsea would even be in these Champions League places had he not been there this season. You look at Jackson's second half of the season form. You look at Palmer's second half of the season form. It hasn't been great. And I think the bedrock that he has just been kind of allowed the defence, in my opinion, to get away with a lot of crimes. Guys like Robert Sanchez is a plunge hole at the back. Cucurella has been decent, to be fair, but the centre-back pairing's been a little bit iffy. Yeah. He has just been that wall and screen in front of them, the security blanket.
Yeah, he is pretty frightening, isn't he? In 10th spot, I've gone for Alexis McAllister.
You see, because he was one of those I didn't have initially in my top 10 when I did the Saturday Social, and I looked back and I was like, I did the typical thing of where he's so universally rated, he so consistently drops 8 out of 10s that you're just like, oh, it's okay, yeah, everybody knows he's good,
yeah,
but you need to give him his flowers. And honestly, I had him.
He's funny, isn't he? Because he's sort of I think he's probably one where in the stadium you're enjoying him more than on telly, maybe. I think he's quite quiet. He's sort of a quiet player. He's not bombastic. He's not physically that, he doesn't stand out. Like, for example, when I watch Declan Rice or when I watch Arsenal, I can only kind of see Declan Rice a lot of the time. He just seems so like imposing Big. Somehow.
Yeah.
McAllister's kind of not like that. But I think you've seen we've seen the sort of the flowers of the seed that was planted last year, in the sense of, okay, he'd been at Brighton, done brilliantly, right? But he was kind of the main man there, so he'd had that experience. But then at Liverpool, I think you needed to see that hustle from him. He got on with playing as a 6 at times. When he could play as an 8, he did. And then going into this year, you got that Gravenberch movement from there, but you've still got a nice bit of physicality there with him and Szoboszlai, who's a different kind of 10. But maybe in terms of like the goals that you're going to get from Szoboszlai, which maybe not been as high as they could have been, McAllister can like dip in and go and sort of pour into that cup as well.
Yeah, and some of his goals have been incredible. Some of the screamers he's got, for me, physically what he brings, technically what he brings. He's got that South American nastiness about him as well, where he takes no prisoners. Yeah. And I think Liverpool's midfield quintessentially needs that. He is what I think Wijnaldum was, but with so much more ability and technical prowess. I just love him as a player, honestly. But I had to make sure I got him in my top 10 this time.
Okay. But I think naturally, when you think of your teams, often, especially in a 3, you've kind of got your 10, who's your superstar, and you've got your 6, who you just really appreciate because he saves you a lot of the time. And then the 8 is kind of like the midfielder, but also the glue that can kind of balance it out. But you just don't focus on that guy. And I think with Gravenberch, who I had lower down, it was kind of because of, there has been moments where he's not struggled, but like not impressed to the same level. And I think Alexis McAllister, in either way, offensively or defensively, I think has just been there to catch things a little bit. Yeah. Great vision as well, very well rounded. I just think he's had a huge season. No one's really spoken about him too much, so I wanted to chuck him in there. Super smart player. So got him in 10th spot. To the top 10 now. 9th spot, I've got another midfielder, kind of similar. I've got Tielemans.
Oh, nice. I have him 7th.
Okay. Who you got 9th?
9th, I have Bruno Fernandes. Okay. And I think this one, people might be thinking, hold on, United 16th place, what are you doing here? But he has been like the diamond amongst the poo. if you like.
A well-known phrase.
I don't know how else to put it, but
just a warning. Please don't go searching through poo, expecting to find some diamonds. It just
please don't.
Trust me,
Please
it doesn't work.
No, but I think in terms of the maturity he's played with this year, he's always been a bit of a gunslinger in terms of creatively. I feel like he's just spamming balls left, right, and centre, and throw enough things at the wall, something's going to stick. And this season, there's a bit more composure he's playing with. There's a bit more maturity, a bit more leadership. And I think for a chaotic United team as it has been, it's needed that.
Yeah.
And he's played a few different roles. The 10 behind that kind of 9 in the Amorim formation, but then in this kind of double pivot in the 8. I didn't expect him to play this well.
Yeah, I like him there.
And I remember last year, I think it was a game against Everton, where he played that deeper role in a 4-2-3-1. And I remember thinking, hold on. Is this where you're actually meant to be? Like, you're actually an 8 masquerading as a 10.
Yeah.
Because you've got the long-range passing, you've got the long-range shooting. I think in terms of creativity, you can find the pass from any angle. And he's got the courage to try things that other players maybe wouldn't. But I think this season, it's because United have been so bad, he's not getting kind of the plaudits he deserves. But I think after Kevin De Bruyne, he is the best natural creator in the league, in my opinion.
That's a great point. So let's talk about both of these guys. Have you got Tielemans in 7th?
Yes.
I've got, just to finish on Bruno Fernandes, I have him 5th. So he's in my top 10 as well. I agree with everything you've said there. I think, again, in terms of how football is moving, I think sometimes you want to play that 4-4-2 mid-block. And so in your double pivot, you need to have people to kind of sit into those places. And we're touching on, look, Tielemans and McAllister. You've got players there that can drop into that double pivot, and it doesn't feel glaring because although it's a double pivot, it's not one of, maybe years gone by where they're both defensive guys. One of those guys, what you really want when you get the ball is for that to turn into another player that can have a bit of freedom to move forward. So McAllister can do that. Tielemans can do that. Bruno Fernandes can do that as well. And I think what I've seen, I've done a 180 on him because I think the way he's just carried on, I do think he actually thrives in the malaise because I think he likes to be the guy to fix it.
Absolutely.
And it'll be interesting to see how that changes if Amorim can fix it broadly with all the other pieces.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think deeper he's much better as well because I think he wants bodies in front of him so he can pick them out.
Yes.
So I think he's done really well, stuck to task. And there's been there was a game, I can't remember which game it was now, but there were so many moments in this game where he gets it. He gets the system. He gets what he's trying to do. And therefore, he's actually going over and sorting things out for other people. And he's looking up and the person isn't there.
Yeah.
But he has still been able to
he's a natural
out
born leader. But just on Tielemans quickly as well, I think his reputation change from where he was at Leicester, where he was seen as like a pretty boy, technical midfielder
and he's a pretty boy,
maybe doesn't have that kind of grit about him. I think at Aston Villa, he has squashed all of those rumours. Totally. I think Kamara was out injured for a long period. Him and Onana had a double pivot going on that was excellent. Kamara comes back in, he adapts his role a little bit, and he's still just as quality. And I think similarly, who was it I mentioned earlier, but he's one of the few players that has played almost every single Gravenberch. He's played every single minute. Where you were saying Gravenberch, maybe the standards had dropped a little bit. His standards haven't dropped.
No,
I think
he's got stronger.
Adam Wharton obviously got the better of him in the semi-final it was, but I mean, Adam Wharton, he's a quality player.
They were on a mission that day.
Yeah, and you can kind of tell. But I think Tielemans, he has been an incredible player this season for Aston Villa. Their player of the season, in my opinion. I know you were talking about Rodgers earlier, but he's the one I'm looking at.
I think that's fair. Yeah, and obviously I've got him above. And they've had to deal with injuries at times as well. I think he's done brilliantly as well. And it's nice to see him, even like Onana, Kamara and him there in a different way when he doesn't have to be in that double pivot. He has got the talent to do that against different sides. So, yeah, Youri Tielemans, absolutely sensational. He is a 9th on my list. Just so fill it in, we'll get to 7, shall we?
Yeah.
So, in 8th spot, you spoke about him earlier. I'm going to talk about him now. Jacob Murphy. My guy. I think... I'm sorry. We said this last week. We had a whole podcast apologising to players. Jacob Murphy deserves to be apologised to.
Yep.
And it should not be going anywhere. Do you want to continue to improve the squad and have that depth? Yes. And of course, you're going to want to go and get that person. But Jacob Murphy should be starting the first game of the season next season.
Yes.
The output, I think it's 20 goals and assists, if I'm correct. The energy, the intelligence, the ability to be there at the right place at the right time.
Yeah. The
ability to help fit and drive this identity that Eddie Howe has created. I think it can't be underestimated. And yes, look, he's not got. There's something like aesthetically. I think it's his journey.
Yeah,
that people just think they just see Jacob Murphy and they think Championship.
He is,
but he's not.
He is still the Newcastle of old, if you like. That
Yeah.
People are like, oh,
and I've thrown that at him.
You need to get rid of these guys and bring in some superstars and
be careful. I think be careful with that.
You need every top club who has been successful. You need soldiers like this, where maybe the names might not be the glitzies and the glamour, but they do the job. I mean, even I'm just thinking Barcelona. You look at that superstar team. Like now, Pedro is seen as like, oh, he's a Spanish legend. Back then, it was like, yo, who's this guy in the academy that couldn't break through as a wonder kid, but now he's a late bloomer under Pep. But he was a soldier at the time.
Yeah.
Jacob Murphy is that. Let Gordon and Isaac get all the plaudits, but I'm going to be here doing the dirty work, and I'm going to get my 20 GH. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which is insane. That's insane. That's insane. And I think like he's at 30. Like I'd love to see his. I bet his fitness stats are like. Or his stamina and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I bet they're insane. And that I don't think that's not going to fall off a cliff.
Nah.
So he can have another great year next year. And the year after that. And I think he's going to be integral to retain that culture. I think you can tell his attitude is exemplary.
Yeah.
And it all adds to the culture.
I imagine he's one of those training ground demons as well, where he sets the standard kind of in training. Do you know what's interesting though? Twin brother.
He had a good year as well, though. Like, in the Championship, he's had a good year. He has had a good year.
But sometimes, you know, think, hold on, why is he all the way up there and I'm in the Championship or something?
I guess it's always the way, isn't it? Someone's got to do better. I mean, but maybe it is a bit of circumstance, but he has absolutely grabbed that opportunity with both hands. Do you know what? I was just thinking there. Talk about having people on the pod. I would love to sit and talk to Jacob Murphy. Yeah. I think he would articulate himself so brilliantly in terms of like what it takes to be
got a great
Premier League player. Yeah, and he's got a great story as well. Jacob, somehow, if anyone's got his number, send it to me, please. Also, if you've got some influence with him to get him to say yes. In seventh spot, I've got Virgil van Dijk.
Ooh, close. I have.
Oh, sorry, have you done your eighth?
Eighth, I had Tielemans.
Yes.
So.
Not seventh. You got
yeah.
Okay,
sorry,
cool.
I had him.
That's all right. We'll figure it out now.
Seventh, I have Mr. Wissa. At Brentford.
Mate, I
I have to give him his flowers, man, because when he initially signed, he was just a backup, like Sade kind of is. And Sade, to be fair, credit to him, he's got his goals as well. Yeah. But when Tony walked out of that door, everybody was thinking, oh, here comes the great Brentford decline. They've replaced, was it Watkins with Tony? How are they going to do this one? And Wembo and Whistle was seen
again
as wingers. Yeah, they've done it again. And quality play every time. I think him and Mbembo every week are kind of going back and forth over who's the record goal scorer. But I've loved the kind of determination that he plays with. That's the best way I can describe his playing style, because he comes off that pitch never cheating you for effort.
Yeah.
And I think that you kind of have to in a Thomas Frank system, but right place, right time.
Yeah.
There's only so many times people can say, oh, it's a good run of form. Oh, he's lucky to be in those positions. After a while, you have to realize, no, this guy knows what he's doing and he's very intelligent as a centre forward.
Yeah, totally. I think Frank deserves plaudits as well for the style of play for Brentford, because I think what they've done here, which is really clever, is that when people were thinking of a striker at number 9, a striker who's playing through the middle, they don't see Johan Wissa. And so, because he's too small.
Yeah.
I think that is a thing here. And so you'll have like these other strikers that look, they're 6'1", they should be winning some aerial duels, they can hold off a player, all these things. But like Sergio Aguero, wasn't that guy. No. And if you can play the right way, and this Brentford team, they play pretty quickly, they attack, they look to get in behind, they look to play those through balls, which suits several players in that team. And then when you're playing in transition that way, it's about sniffing it out the chance. It's not about, winning an aerial duel. And he scores every kind of finish as well. Yeah.
Instinctive.
I think it's a really, really good shout. He probably should have been in my 20. I think what I've done is I've been a bit fair here and there, where I've gone, well, I've got a Brentford guy.
Yeah.
And I had 2 in. To have 3 and felt like a bit much. And I've still got a Brentford man to come. But yeah, great shout. Really, really good shout.
But him and Mbembo are my 7 and 6, by the way. So,
okay.
Just to jump out.
Oh, go on, let's do that. Because my 6th spot is Mbembo.
Oh, perfect.
As well. I think he is.
We've actually got the same place, so we're playing now. That's perfect.
So it's crazy how he's just continues to develop. His output is sensational. On that right hand side as well. There's not too many of those guys on that right hand side absolutely killing it, and he is. So he is a very valuable product.
As you said, Thomas Frank plays to their strengths as well, whether it be the counter-attacking style, the full flow football. I think he has been one of the best players in the Premier League for a while, in my opinion. And so often we've talked about, he deserves a big move, he deserves a big move. No, he will get a big move this summer. This is the summer where he leaves.
I had a Christmas do with my mates were Brentford fans.
Yeah.
And we had this big argument, a drunken argument about Mbomo, and how I was like, he can't finish. Like, he can't, because in the first season he couldn't.
He made you eat your words.
But he has, he has got it so right now. And again, but that's what I mean, the style of play is different. Before, it was, you had Ivan Toney, who you'd hit, he'd win his aerial duel, and Mbomo was on his way in behind him. And so they were it was a different scenario where, pressure's on now. You could hear the whole crowd, and he sort of struggled in that moment. But again, like, you have to have minutes and reps and seasons in the league, and now some of his chances are different, and he's coming onto it in a different way.
Yeah.
But also, he is just like, he is acclimatized to the league, and he's great.
No, fully.
It's gonna be interesting to see. It looks like he's making that move. When he does make that move, what that means for his numbers, because I do wonder if he will be in the same scenario.
Do you know what it is? I feel like with the tenacity that he plays with will give him chances regardless, even if he's playing in a poor team, because Brentford aren't the most ball dominant team, and he still eats a lot. And I'm thinking, if you go to a team where it's even more ball dominant, more possessive.
My fear is more like, is teams playing in a low block against you? Will he get the same? Which he might have. I mean, Brentford play good football, so maybe. So it's more a space thing for me. I wonder. Yeah, when when the opposition is just like curling up into a ball. I don't think people do that against Brentford to their detriment sometimes. Okay, so the average ratings in 12th spot, Alex Iwobi. Okay. In 11th spot, Mateo Kovacic.
Okay.
Get it. I think it's like it's a data-driven one.
Yeah. I understand that.
Yeah, maybe a bit of stat padding going on, but and he's stepped in and done okay, hasn't he? He's done all right. He's done well. In 10th spot, Enzo Fernandez.
Okay, this list is about to lose its credibility, right?
I think he's done okay. Yeah. I think the goals will have bumped him up probably.
Oh, definitely.
In 9th spot, Declan Rice, who Declan Rice isn't in my 20.
Same.
I think his biggest moments have probably come in the Champions League.
Yeah.
So if we're talking Premier League, a little bit different. Never lets you down. Always really good. And I get why he's in here, and I love him. But yeah, I couldn't crowbar him.
Yeah, if it was a 25-man list, he would have probably snuck in, but not for me.
8th spot, don't hate it, get it, but I think maybe he's not made it into mine based on the season his club's had. Gvardiol. He's got a lot of goals, isn't he?
Do you know what it is with Gvardiol? There was moments at left back. I remember, like, when we played them, Spurs, absolutely put him on a barbecue skewer and just turned him like a rotisserie. It was funny to watch him.
Didn't he have a really bad week where he had, like, did Vinny Jr. do him, or someone did him, and then someone did him at the weekend?
And that just, like, printed into my brain almost. But then when he moved into centre back, he actually looked really good and really assured. So it was kind of like, you started off the season attacking really well. Then you ended up getting burnt out almost, it felt like. Then you moved to your natural position, to which I've been saying for a long time. I don't know why Pep's forced him. He's 6'3".
Yeah, I just don't think he's not really had another left back to do it, has he?
I mean, Aki was player of the year. Yeah. And then he's just been dished to the side. So.
Pep he's ruthless, isn't he? So yeah, I get it. 7th spot, Yuri Tillemans. Which...
rightly so.
Did we put him near there?
Yeah.
And 6th spot, Mark Flecken. From nowhere. Now, you don't put goalkeepers in these kind of things.
No.
But the fact that he's in the 6th spot is fascinating, because he's obviously been busy.
Yeah.
But they've... and actually, I think last year he did pretty well as well. So he's maybe stat padding in a different way. But yeah, Mark Flecken, well done.
Hey, man.
Right, final 5. In 5th spot, we've spoken about him, or I have, Bruno Fernandes. It is bizarre that they are where they are in the league, but he is in here. But that's where we are, people. So I'm okay with it, and I think he deserves it. So yeah, he's in 5th for me. Who have you got?
I have Alexis McAllister.
Hey,
who we've obviously spoken about already, but what a player! I feel like this season he has been 8 out of 10, borderline every single game. And we said earlier, jack of all trades, master of all. That's what I call him.
He's There's been so much talk about Liverpool and like this feels like something feels funny about this season and then winning it. And it's just because it's been really like, there's not been the crazy jeopardy. I think Alex McAllister is like the embodiment of that. Because it's just been like, do you need me, dear? Yeah, all right. Well, header. We'll just carry on.
Yeah.
So yeah, good shout.
No, quality.
4th spot. I've got Mateus Cunha.
Oh.
I just can't get away from the goals he's scored, the level he's hit, how important he's been. And yes, they went on a great run when he got suspended. That was against teams kind of down there generally. And Pereira obviously deserves huge credit for that.
Yeah.
I think on the pitch, if you take away the bits around it, he has been utterly sensational. And it's a weird one where that bottom three have been so poor and unable to collect points.
Yeah.
But I think that set, regardless of that, Wolves would have been in a horrible, horrible, horrible place if he hadn't have been scoring the goals and dragging the team at different times and being the difference. And that is it. Like I think maybe I'm in a place with my sort of watching of football that this, who's that guy who'll get you out of it? Like Kulusevski in the first half of the season was like, I was like, wow. I mean, he's not in here, but like, he shows how it kind of fallen off a cliff. Like those guys, I do really like those guys. And I think he's been absolutely, when I think about this season and I think about the players that have just been outrageous, he's the one for me.
No, I agree. For me, 4th place, I have gone Ryan Gravenberch. And he's down from 1 place previous where I had him. But
I had a stinker.
I think I've spoken enough on him. I don't feel like I have him too highly placed. Some would say I do. And maybe you could say it's a bit of bias, but I'm just glad to finally see the player that
he's a defining player of the season.
Yeah. I always thought this player was there. And after 4 years of almost stagnation, he's finally arrived type thing. And the fact that it's taken a new manager coming in, giving him all that trust, new position. There's so many reasons how it could have gone and should have gone wrong, but he stepped up to the plate and he stepped up in a massive way. And some people say, oh, post-February, maybe his form dipped a little bit. I think he wasn't a player who was putting down numbers anyway. So unless you're really scanning his kind of defensive numbers, I still think he was... Maybe he was playing at a 9 out of 10 for the 2/3 of the season, but then he was playing like a 7.5 out of 10 for the rest of it. And I'm like, I think after a certain point, you'll take that.
I think I've got him a bit too low. Yeah. If I'm honest, I think you're right. I think you may be a touch too high, but is he a defining player of the season? 100%. Yeah, I think he is. And I think when we're getting to this top 4, I think that's what it should kind of be about a little bit. Speaking of which, in 3rd spot, I have got Chris Wood. Chris Wood has the highest XG over performance this season in the top, and this is in the top 5 leagues, plus 7.7. Nottingham Forest, no one had him in this area of the league. They don't have the ball, so you need to take your chances.
Absolutely.
And he's been utterly sensational.
Unreal.
And I think it's going to be sad if, look, they've got European football. Yeah. So that's crazy. That is honestly, I think if you get to you have this sometimes. Like I love playing golf, right? And you, even if you have a good round, you can't during the round you go, oh, I could have. If I putted that one and putted that one, then it would have been a better. And that's where we are with Forest a little bit because
I think
they've tensed up a bit.
This is the ambition of the young though, like to get to these places. And I mean, now it's kind of like he's got to put his money where his mouth is, I guess. And to be fair, he has done that since they've come into the Premier League. But I think Chris Wood is just like a embodiment of their season, isn't it? And I know obviously goals have maybe dried up in the last 10 games or so, but I think the precedent that he sent that whole Champions League charge, a big factor was down to him and some of the goals you scored. I remember the game against United where he was just scoring first time left foot finishes and I went, who is this? Yeah. Because this was not the same man that was on his final year at Burnley, went to Newcastle, it wasn't working, and he's 32, 33 as well. He's having like an Indian summer to his career, if you like. It's crazy, honestly. But I'm ashamed to admit I don't have him in my 20. Yeah, and the funny thing is I had him in my list previously, but in all of the reshuffling and shuffling, I think he was one. Oh, Chris Wood, I apologize. 3rd place, though, I had Virgil van Dijk. A man who I think, I mean, even at his age, he seems to be getting better and better. now this title, I feel like, is going to cement him in those kind of conversations where people were always a little bit hesitant to put him alongside the JTs and the Rios and saying, I needs more longevity. And I'm like, if this man coming back from an ACL injury and restoring back to the levels that, look, pre-injury was a unicorn. I think we're never going to see that level of centre-back for like a 2-year period again.
Right.
But the level he's been able to get back to now, it's a world-class level. And I remember there was points where people wanted to really like say, oh, Saliba's better than him and things like that. And I was like, guys, I don't think you understand what Virgil van Dijk is. He is a special player. The composure he plays with, I think since he's taken the armband, leadership has just gone up another level. I think he improves Konate next to him. He improves all of those around him. You were saying that about Caicedo. Do you improve those around you? He 100% does. Yeah. And I think his passing ability, that diagonal he can do right foot, left foot. It reminds me of JT. JT used to do that. Right foot, left foot, I can find either channels. And Van Dijk from that left centre-back position is a weapon. Yeah,
I totally agree with you. I don't think I spoke about much. I think Mike said his name. I got Van Dijk in 7th. And yeah, I agree with you. I think, big word that everyone is using now is aura. And I do, I know. But the ripple effect of you as a player, I think, is an enormous thing. And it's something that people will sleep on. And I think you're right. He had it then. But to come back and have it, and maybe in a slightly different way, you're sort of watching him a lot of the time. Yeah. And in terms of centre-backs, you just don't do that. That the fact that they've been able to keep him has been huge. The way he's been able to navigate this season. Yeah. It's been, you've chucked him in these conversations, but it was always more about Salah and Trent. He's, from a captaincy point of view, that's been really impressive. Like you say, 1 or 2 moments. But I think the thing as well is he now set such a high standard that you have to be flawless. Yeah. And so any little moment, everyone goes, great, because he has got a bit of a prickly character 100%. To him, right?
And that's what I feel like that unicorn era, as I call it, that's what that precedent set of him being this perfect centre-back, never gets dribbled past. He's got this force field where he just stops everything in front of him, and now it's like the moment he makes a mistake. I remember the Newcastle game where he got sent off,
Fulham, wasn't it?
Finally, we got him, and it's kind of like, you lot were waiting for this coming out. But for me, he is just one of those near perfect players. I look at.
I think when you're in the defensive side of it, Alisson will make the odd mistake. You can't do it that way round. It's the same with Van Dijk. I think over the course of the season, I think he's been absolutely.
I think you look at it. Konate's been out injured at points. Trent has been in and out of the side with injuries and rotating with Bradley. Robertson hasn't really been the same level. We're talking about Gravenberch, who's playing an entirely new role in the 6 in front of him.
He's talking.
He is having to be the glue that somehow holds all of this together. And I don't think sometimes he gets enough credit as he deserves. And when I did,
because you can't see it, you got to be there to hear it, haven't you?
Yeah. And when I did these, I had him lower, and since then I was like, why did I have him 10th? I was like, no way. Van Dijk's been one of the best players this season, but because he's a centre-back, people don't want to say it. And I'm sorry, centre-backs union, I will always prop up centre-backs.
Okay, so we will be revealing those average ratings of the top 5 in just a second, but we've got to do our final 2. Probably quite obvious for most. I'd imagine we got it the same. I've got Isak in 2nd, Salah in 1st.
Correct you are.
Correct, we are. So much been spoken about both. I think Salah, obviously, it's calmed down a little bit. Troy Deeney was saying to me, he said, he's not shooting anymore because he wants the assist record.
Did you see the game the other day against Arsenal? He did not want to shoot, and he was just shoveling everything. He was just like, there was one 5-yard pass he played to Diaz. I know he was cussing him after the game because he was like, mate, that's my record right there. You're wasting away. They've got the title now. I feel like the mission over the next 2 games should be that. Salah, we are going to do everything in our power to get you these assists, and I hope he gets it.
And some people will turn their nose up at that, but that's who he is, and that's why you get the output that you get from him. Mm-hmm. And he is the top scorer in the top 5 leagues. The assists are off the scale, absolutely outrageous. Isak as well, I think, is just shown how complete he is as a striker, and I think it's a very, very difficult conversation to go, who's the best striker in the league now? Yeah. Like him and Haaland. That in itself is
the fact that we're having that conversation is a testament to how well he's doing, and maybe not how well Haaland's doing. But with Isak, I've always said the ability was always there. I think we've always seen flashes of it from his early time at Newcastle, from his time at Sociedad. Euro 2020, I even remember with Sweden, he was showing glimpses. But it was always a case of injuries were holding him back. He'd always get these little knocks and niggles, and you'd think, I always said him, Elise, 2 players that I thought if they can have one injury-free season, I feel like we're going to see some real world-class special players here. And funnily enough, Elise's gone to Bayern Munich, stayed injury-free. He's been killing it. Isaac this season, we're talking second best player in the league we're talking about. So he is a quality player. Personally, I really hope he doesn't leave Newcastle this summer. I think now that you've won the Carabao Cup, you've got a nice core there. Be the face of that club. Yeah. Even if it's for a year or so, even if you're the first to leave of that kind of collective, don't let it be the first opportunity. Do you know what I mean? You could potentially have Champions League football as well. I think he could go down.
Away from winning the league.
Oh, mate. Honestly, I think they could make a serious run because if there's one thing Liverpool have shown this season, there's opportunities. And if you're good enough and you're there at the right time, you can take it.
Okay. So we will end on this. The top 5. Just get your reaction super quick. So the top 5 are Mbomo.
I'm happy with that. We'll take that.
Bruno Fernandes, 4th.
Not bad.
Mateus Cunha. Mo Salah, of course, is number 1. And you'll remember Isak was down in... Where was he?
Oh, I just remembered. Isak
was 14th.
Yeah.
So, in second spot, Cole Palmer.
What?